Hey everybody, how's it going? Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, of course. Got your questions regarding the latest happenings in WWE and TNA, so let's get down to your questions. First one today comes from Harry Flynn. What are your thoughts on James Storm signing with WWE, and what superstar do you want to see him face? I want to see him face Brainwalker. Just kidding. I think that it's awesome for James Storm that he's getting the opportunity in WWE. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised because WWE over the years has seemed to shy away from signing TNA talent, figuring that they are damaged goods and they have a negative stigma attached to being involved with the TNA brand. But we've seen that trend reverse in recent memory. Guys like Samoa Joe coming into NXT and now James Storm, and these guys getting huge reactions and the internet blowing up and everything. This is a good sign, I think, for both former and current TNA talent that there's more of an opportunity to get into WWE now. For guys like Bobby Roode, there's a possibility now of making it in WWE if things in TNA don't work out. Even for guys like Austin Aries, there may be an opportunity in the future. So I think that this is great that James Storm is getting the chance, and some of these really talented TNA guys that were never utilized properly or to their fullest extent, their fullest potential, these guys are now getting chances in WWE. So I think it's great. Alright, this one comes from Lewis. What on earth was that 7th of October TNA Impact broadcast? Austin Aries was there. Austin Aries being there was all way too confusing. This was TNA trying to make the most of a very bad situation. The reports that were out there were that TNA was going to be canceled by Destination America at the end of September, and because of that, TNA did not book any TV tapings past September. Bound for Glory was going to be the last show, and then that was possibly going to be it for TNA on television. But as it turns out, Destination America decided to at least keep TNA around for a few more months. However, TNA doesn't have the financial resources to run an impromptu television taping. So what they had to do was take footage that they taped back in July that they were going to use for one-night-only pay-per-views. They had done this tournament, and they were going to put it on the one-night-only pay-per-views. They decided to make that the television shows for the next month or so, and that's what they've come up with this TNA World Series, and that whole angle with the title being vacated allowed them to come up with this tournament idea on television to be for the world title, and somehow try to keep the storylines progressing until they can do their next set of TV tapings. So yeah, there's some things that are ridiculous, like Austin Aries being there, and guys like James Storm that were part of the tournament that aren't even going to be on television, and of course the Knockouts going for the TNA World title, which is really silly. But I have to give TNA credit. I did watch the show, and with the editing and everything, I mean, they really did the best they could, like I said, under very bad circumstances. Alright, this one comes from I'm Savaged. Hey Aaron, it's my first time asking. Do you think that Michael Cole's heel run was entertaining? I liked him, but now not so. I enjoyed Michael Cole as a heel for the most part. I think he did shine in that role. I think the problem was that he was going back and forth. One minute he would be a heel, the next minute he would be the babyface play-by-play man. I think that it would have been more effective if Cole was just completely heel and you had somebody else step in and be the top play-by-play announcer, but WWE didn't want to do that, so they had Cole basically playing both roles. One minute he'd be babyface, next minute he would be a heel. That's the one thing I didn't like about it, but overall, I thought Cole really did a tremendous job in that heel role. Alright, this one comes from Interstate Kyle on YouTube. And by the way, Kyle, I'm a big fan of your videos. Check him out on Interstate Kyle on YouTube. He does these time-lapse videos driving across the country. They're really cool, so check him out. Anyways, on to his question here, giving him the cheap plug. Hey Aaron, what did you think of the John Cena versus Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania 23? I think the match is underrated. I agree with you. I feel that that was a really good match between the two of them. I think that because the match they had a month later in the UK stole the show, a lot of people tend to remember that match more than the WrestleMania match, but the WrestleMania match on its own is incredible. I thought it was a great main event for WrestleMania, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it definitely deserves the recognition. And also, you know, people think about the Batista and Undertaker match stealing the show, and you know that because of those two matches, both the UK match and the Batista-Undertaker match, you know, fans tend to forget a little bit about the John Cena-Michaels match that was the final match at WrestleMania 23. I thought it was a great main event, so definitely feel it deserves a lot more credit than perhaps it gets. Alright, this one comes from Cody the Dragon Dude. Do you think WWE Network could be used to bring back the sideshows like Sunday Night Heat and Velocity, or maybe new sideshows? I really feel they have too much programming as it is. With NXT, I think that that's enough. I do like having some different variety shows every now and then. The Table for Three that they're doing, and the JBL show. You know, they're doing these different shows with the talent. But I feel just adding more wrestling programming on top of 3-hour Raws and 2-hour SmackDowns and then NXT every week, to me that's enough. And I think you don't want to oversaturate your product too much. I think they've already done it too much, but I would not add more in-ring programming at this time. I think you have more than enough, and I think it would be a mistake, and it's just gonna water down the entire product, and people are just gonna pick and choose what shows they watch, and you know, shows like SmackDown are just gonna get fewer and fewer viewers because there's just too much content out there for people to watch. So people are only gonna stick with one show. Alright, this one comes from Colin James. Please answer in video. Do you think the term buried is overused by the IWC smarks? Example, Sting was buried. Yeah, buried, I think when you look at somebody like Zack Ryder, I think you can say that that guy was buried. He was a guy that was getting over, doing the Zack Ryder internet shows, the Long Island Iced Z shows, and WWE decided to destroy him. They booked him in these angles that made him look like a complete fool, to the point where people stopped caring about him, and he lost the steam that he had from doing his internet shows. That was a burial. You know, some of these guys, I would say Sandow has been a burial. I mean, not so much losing to Cena, but the way they followed up with him, with him pairing up with The Miz and then putting him with Axel, and now he's not even on television. You know, that's pretty much a burial. But some of these other guys, like Kevin Owens, I mean, you could really make an argument one way or another with him, but the fact is Kevin Owens is on television every week. He has a high-profile position in the company. He's not the main event. Maybe he could have been, but I think he's doing just fine. I would not say that Owens was buried, but you know, they could have handled that feud with him and Cena better. I mean, they didn't have to have him win one match and have Cena win the next 3. They could have just done 2 matches and ended it with that. Let Cena get his win back and move on. But you know, in some ways, it's a valid claim to say that somebody's buried. But you know, people like to say, oh, this guy. Anytime somebody loses, they're buried, and that's not the case. I mean, sometimes you can lose and come off looking stronger. But I understand the sentiment of some fans for saying people are buried, because you know, if WWE's writing were better, losing would make a person stronger and not weaker. And there have been times in history where guys lose matches and they still come off looking strong because of the performances and the way that the story was told. And like the NXT pay-per-view this past week, the TakeOver event. You know, even losing, Sasha Banks came off looking like a bigger star because of the whole presentation of the match and the aftermath. And that's an example of somebody in a losing position looking stronger. And that's good booking. It's bad booking when you just have somebody lose for no good reason, and you know, the person just comes off with less value that they had going in before. Alright, this one comes from Daniel Davis, longtime viewer, first-time asker. Do you think WWE would benefit from an off-season? More rest for the stars and better storylines? I think it would be a good idea, but it's not going to happen. WWE is in a position where they can have people working on the roster 24/7 all year round. WWE has been doing that business model now for decades, and there's no reason for them to change, because if somebody was burned out, WWE can easily replace that person. it's really unfortunate. It would be nice if guys were given more time off. And, you know, John Cena getting time off, I think, is a great move. I think he should have more time off than 2 months, honestly. I think they should give him 6 months off. And they should do that with a lot of their talent. Give them a break. Not so much an off season, but just giving guys more extended time off so their characters don't get overly stale. They can be gone for a while, they can rest their bodies up, and then they can come back and they'll be fresh faces again. You know, that is, I think, a very good idea to give guys more time off, and what they've been doing with Orton, giving him a lighter schedule. You know, WWE has a huge talent roster. They have so many people on the roster. It makes sense to cycle guys in and out and give the top stars a break sometimes. You know, WWE's just worried, you know, by giving Cena time off, they're worried the merchandise will drop and they're worried that the ratings will go down. But I think in the long run, it's a better move to give these people time off, and I think it would make the business healthier to cycle these guys in and out. Alright, this one comes from Beast Slayer. Isn't it sad that WWE couldn't capitalize on Damien Sandow's popularity when he had it? Well, going back to that earlier question, I totally agree with that sentiment. I think that Damien Sandow had a lot of potential. I think that the character, the intellectual savior, was very, he performed it very well. I did talk about around that time that he needed to evolve the character a little bit, but if they did that, he would have been a huge star. And, you know, losing to Cena, I didn't think was the worst thing in the world. Yeah, it sucks that he actually had to lose the Money in the Bank match to John Cena, but they could have kept him in high-profile feuds. They could have evolved the character, and he could have stayed towards the top of the WWE card. I mean, he's a tremendous promo and very entertaining. He is a guy that is multi-talented, and we've seen with the Miz, you know, he was stealing the show there. I mean, even when he was put in a bad situation in a lower card position, he was still shining. And you know, the fact that he could shine when he was put in such a low position, you know, that just goes to show the guy has a lot of talent. And you know, he can perform. He's a great entertainer, and it just sucks that they have literally nothing for him right now. And you know, he's way better than doing cheesy Macho Man impressions. He deserves better. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please share it with a friend. Please share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding Hell in a Cell. And I will see you guys next time for more.